Tsarist and Communist Russia, 1855 to 1917. Economic and social developments to 1914. Industrial developments. During the reign of Nicholas II, Sergei Witt was the Minister of the Economy. He sought capital, managers and skilled workers from overseas, and in January of 1897 he introduced a new ruble in order to strengthen the currency. He encouraged foreign investment, which had started to decline due to businessmen finding new ones to expand their enterprises. Capital was used to fund public works, develop infrastructure, and develop mine, oil fields and forests for timber. Railways. The state controlled 70% of the railway, and by 1905 this was 59,616 kilometers of railway. This allowed more extensive exploitation of raw materials. This linked grain-growing areas to the Black Sea, which meant more exports. This was a stimulus of development of heavy industry. Witt wanted to concentrate on key areas of production such as the Baltic coast, Moscow, Donbass region and the Baku coalfields. However, this made production geographically uneven as it was only on the west of Russia. Agricultural developments. In 1906, Stolypin was made Minister of Internal Affairs. Before, farming was on small scale by form of serfs and peasants, but as the Russian population grew, land did not. Culture was still used, which left waste fallow land each year. However, some peasants could farm efficiently. These were known as the kulaks, of which Stolypin wanted more of. He wanted to win the loyalty of the peasants to Tsardom by improving agriculture. Some of Stolypin's land reforms included more crown land available for peasants granted equal rights in local administration, peasants being allowed to leave their communes, and redemption payments completely abolished. Stolypin said that he needed 20 years of peace for his reforms. War prevented this, but peasants' ownership of land did increase from 20% in 1905 to 50% in 1915. There was also a run of good harvests. However, not everything was successful. By 1914, 90% of the peasant holdings were still in traditional strips, and peasants were reluctant to give up traditional practice of farming. Landowners didn't want to give up their land, and 50% remained to the nobility. Only fewer than 1% achieved the kulak status. Social. Working and living conditions in towns. There were new factories and small workshops made. In 1900 there were 2 million workers in towns and cities, and in 1913 there were 6 million. However, some settled temporarily and returned home for the harvests. In 1914, 3/4 of people in towns and cities were peasant by birth. They lived in barrack-like buildings which were overcrowded and had inadequate sanitation. They shared canteens and had communal baths. Only 40% had no running water, and between 1908 and 1909, 30,000 died of cholera. Wages varied, which meant peasants could not afford rent and had to sleep in the factories. Their working hours were 10 hours a day. Working and living conditions in countryside. There was widespread rural poverty, and kulaks exploited the poorest. A minority moved to Siberia, which was only 30%. The nobility. Some thrived on favourable arrangements of land. Half of nobles' land transferred to townsmen, and they were encouraged to influence the Zemstva. In 1906, the first meeting of United Nobility was held. They were determined to retain their property rights. Middle classes. This was a small emergence of a new class of businessmen. The growth of education fueled the growth of this class, and they found their natural home on the Zemstva. Workers and peasantry. They were affected by population growth and economic development. Because of this, peasant protests became more political. Former peasants lost their identity and turned to drinking, making them an easy target for political agitators. Hey guys, thank you for watching. If you didn't know, I do have a more kind of schedule now to my videos. It is in my channel description if you want to have a look at that. Make sure you subscribe and comment what content you would like to see.